Hi, I'm Robert Persinger, and I love movie reaction videos.
Welcome to the Finding Favorites podcast, where we explore your favorite things without using an algorithm. Here's your host, Leah Jones.
Welcome to Finding Favorites. I'm your host, Leah Jones. It's Sunday, May 23rd. Today I've got an interview for you that I recorded just on Thursday night with Robert Persinger. Robert is known to those of us who are fans of Doughboys as the Drop King. And I had put a call out to the Discord, which is a Discord server of people who are fans of Doughboys, saying, hey, I'm booking my June guests. Is anybody available or interested in coming on Finding Favorites? And Robert was available within like the next half hour. So we scrambled to our microphones and had a really nice chat. It is, I think, one of the best things of this last year of doing this podcast have been the opportunities to have long and interesting conversations with people I just know online or who I just know from podcasts. And this is no exception to that joy I found this year. I'm also coming up on a year of the podcast, which is pretty wild to think of. I think it's in June was when I released my first episode, but I recorded my first episode a year ago because I recorded right before George Floyd's murder and the video came out. That's really clear in my head that had happened, that I had recorded 2 episodes before that happened because I released them after and it seemed weird we didn't talk about it. So yeah, I'm a year into doing this and I think I'm not going to give myself a scorecard necessarily, but I think some things have gotten better about how I podcast. I still am having a blast doing it, and so I plan to keep making it happen. I hope you have a good week and that you have continued to stay safe, stay healthy, and that you find some peace. Hello and welcome to Finding Favorites. I'm your host, Leah Jones, and this is the podcast where we learn about people's favorite things and we get recommendations without using an algorithm. I am super excited today. The last few weeks I have been pulling my guests from the How Did This Get Made fandom, and today I have with me someone I know from the Doughboys community. He is the co-host of Gentlemen Overlords, the associate producer of Doughboys, Robert Persinger, also known as the Drop King. Robert, how are you doing tonight?
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm doing great.
Where in the world are you?
Where in the world am I?
I think you're west of Chicago.
It's true. I am west of Chicago. I'm in sunny Seattle, Washington right now.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
My brother, well, he lives, I think, in Kirkland. So I think if I said he lived in Seattle, he'd be like, no. He doesn't actually live in Seattle. But he and my cousins wound up out there. So
it's a great place.
Yeah. Well, and it seems like the locals of Seattle have done excellent PR in making everybody believe that it's like a really gloomy and rainy city. And like, why would you ever want to go there? It's so gray. When really, like, there's a lot of beautiful sunny days in Seattle.
Yes. And the weather changes, we've got mountains that catch the rain and do all sorts of crazy stuff too. So you don't have to go. I love this place because you can go an hour and a half and hit a whole different kind of biome, basically. It's really awesome.
Yeah, I've been out there a few times to visit family, and my cousin got married in, I think are there botanic gardens or Japanese gardens?
Yeah, definitely.
And that was really cool. And then her reception was on a ferry in
that's beautiful
bay, in the water.
Wow, that's
there.
So yeah, the sound. That's
the sound. Yes.
it's almost all the Northwest experiences during that wedding. They couldn't go to the top of Mount Rainier also and do their vows there or something. That would have been the extra.
No, we're a very Midwestern family. So including a hike, we hiked through the Botanic Gardens to get to the
Yes,
get to
flat
the
ideally.
ceremony. Yeah.
I'm not a big, I like a leisurely hike. I'm not a big like scaling the mountain with yeah, if I have to be belayed or something, that's a no-go for me.
Yeah, no. No. Have you always been in Seattle?
Yeah, actually, yeah, born and raised. I grew up in the Greenwood neighborhood and now I'm in Ballard, which is really just a neighborhood or two away. It's not too far. Um, I've traveled a little bit, but I've never found a place I love more than Washington. So,
That's outstanding.
yeah.
Brother and then my cousin moved out there after him. And then I have an older sister in Bellingham. And my nibblings are all in Idaho. So we've got like a pretty strong Pacific Northwest contingent.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Good excuse to come back out at some point. I haven't even I love even being a tourist in my own state sometime. There's places I haven't still gotten to, and like we've got a rainforest that I've only been to the once and I really want to get back out to that at some point. So
Is that up towards Vancouver?
yeah, I think it's further
Okay.
north like the Olympic rainforests, but it's awesome. It's really cool. I went when I was a kid and I need to go back.
I love it. So how is we're a year and whatever into this? I don't want to say it's the end, but like how is this part of the pandemic treating you, Robert?
It definitely, I mean, and I'm a pretty anxious guy and it's been crazy and it makes even the mundane things crazy because you can't just communicate and see people the same way you wanted to. But I'm starting to feel a little optimistic as far as like people getting vaccinated, which is great, and feeling more like being able to walk and go places and hopefully eat at a place or see a movie sometime. It would make me feel so much more human to be
Yeah.
able to do that and for people not get sick because I want to. So that's my big thing. It's been better. I feel like I'm almost out of my 2 weeks on my second shot.
Oh,
So
how exciting.
so I'm feeling good, and I think it's also helpful that like everything is getting genuinely nice outside and there's sun on my face, and we don't always have doom and gloom in Seattle. So the
Yeah.
fact that it's nice out and I feel like slightly better about going out and carrying my mask with me, but being away from people and just feeling the breeze on my face. I don't know. It's cathartic. I'm finally feeling a little bit better about everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Last night, my upstairs neighbor and I rode our bikes a neighborhood over and had dinner on a patio. Things are starting to open up in Chicago now. It was an Italian restaurant called Bar Roma. And it was their first night with their patio open. And then there's limited seating inside. We sat outside and like had a bottle of rosé and had fried artichokes. And it was like such a perfect night.
That's exactly. I mean, it's hard to find the positives in any of this. I hope we just like generally experience like more appreciation for those little things. And I feel like my wife and I tried pretty hard before anything was happening to go out when we made plans and like try to stick to things because we always just appreciated having an invite and wanted to enjoy ourselves. And so I don't like regret that, like, oh, why didn't we do that before everything shut down? But I feel like I'm only going to appreciate even those little moments more. Like sitting on a patio with friends and having a bite to eat is always nice, but I don't think I will ever like underestimate it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I spent a lot of the last year. I live across the street from a park, and there's a baseball diamond that I turned into like my extended living room that I would just tell my friends, like, I will see you in the dugout. Like, go and get takeout, like whatever you want to eat, whatever you want to drink. We'll go and we'll sit in this baseball dugout. And because it was fenced in, but it was
Covered.
open air.
Yeah.
You could sit 12 feet apart from each other, and people couldn't sneak up on you because you're in a baseball field. So it felt like kind of a safer place to sit in the park.
This sounds like a good themed restaurant. They should just do dugouts outside of the restaurants and stuff like that and have a baseball. You could open a baseball themed sports bar with these all ready to go in case anything else happens and we need them again.
Yeah, I'll do it. Chicago does enjoy baseball.
I was gonna say they
may have
might
heard of
actually. I'm surprised. I'm shocked that there isn't something like that already. But you're onto something.
There has to be a sports bar called the Dugout, but if it actually has like long benches,
Little dugouts.
yeah, that would
Dirt
be
floor.
fantastic. Dirt floors, lots of peanuts, all the good stuff. And you and your wife also got a cat during quarantine.
We did, yes. McCready is his name.
How has that been?
It's amazing. I've always had cats in my life growing up, but
Yeah.
it's definitely a thing where it's one thing to have a cat in your home and pet it and enjoy it and not be as responsible for, like, if you forget to feed it, your parents do or your
Right.
sibling does, and knowing that, and especially now in quarantine, it's like I'm not going anywhere. Like if the food is gone or if he's used the litter box, I know about it and I have to do something about it right away. I can't pretend. But all that to say, I am over the moon about him and we're so happy with him. He's a little demon sometimes, and he's very
he's
loud.
Young, right?
Yeah, he's a little, I think I want to say he's a little over a year now, because he was like 6 or I want to say 5, was he 6 or 7 months when we got him, and that was in January 16th,
Okay.
actually. Yeah.
Nice.
And we named him McCready after that's January 16th, John Carpenter's birthday, and he directed The Thing, and that is Kurt Russell's character in The Thing, and it was just sort of kind of all made sense. He was Mike originally, and so we call him Mac for short.
Nice.
Yeah.
My two guys are Cowboys on my right. He came to me when he was 2 years old from a coworker, and his name was Boots because he was named for Dora the Explorer's monkey.
Okay.
But he doesn't have socked feet. Like, he doesn't have boots. And so I renamed him Cowboy. Boots is his middle name, because I thought I would be respectful to the little girl who named him, but I was like, I can't call a cat a name that doesn't make any sense to me. So he's Cowboy Boots.
I love it.
And then Spidey is on my left. I'm sure he will show up eventually. And he's 20. He's turning 20 in September.
Wow.
He was born on the patio of a restaurant where I was a waitress 20 years ago in Durango, Colorado.
Oh my gosh.
So there was Mama Cat who no one could catch. And so every litter, every waiter, waitress, guy in the kitchen, bartender, we all had Mama Cat's kittens. So his litter was Orangey, Peachy, and Blackie. And he's the one I caught. So Spidey is...
What a journey, 20 years. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he's been through everything. But yeah, I think they've definitely have... I think everyone, however they're getting through this pandemic, looks to their side and they're like, well, you know, I live alone, but at least I have cats. And I look at people that have lived alone without animals through this, and I'm like, oof, how do you do that?
Yeah.
But everybody looks to their other side and they're like, well, I have this one little thing that makes this easier, and thank goodness for that. So I'm really grateful for these two guys.
Same. For giving up also some of your personal space, obviously, too. The payoff, it pays off in dividends, in like the happiness and just like going up and seeing them and knowing that they're safe and happy. It's joyous.
So, we were talking before I hit record, this is a podcast where I interview people about hobbies, things they enjoy, how they found them. And you have one that nobody has ever brought up to me before, and I'm really excited about it. So, Robert, what are we going to talk about this evening?
I wanted to talk about reaction videos, and maybe more specifically, reacting to movies for the first time. Folks seeing movies and recording their reactions to them, like completely devoid of almost most context.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I think of reaction videos, I'm a little bit older than you. So there was, I don't even want to say it because I don't want anybody to Google it. but there were very famous reaction videos about 10 years ago at the beginning of YouTube.
Okay.
That were people watching like either like they were like famous like porn or like dirty clips that people would watch.
Sure. I'm
And they
familiar.
would
Yeah.
okay.
I definitely remember some of that Wild West of YouTube 1.0
Yes.
and if those kind of videos weren't on there, then you would be able to find at least a reaction videos of people seeing them.
Seeing them for the first time.
Yeah.
So when I think of reaction videos, I think of those like early internet video days or TikTok, which I gave into the TikTok monster. I have it on my phone. I have to limit myself.
My wife loves it too. I'm not on I don't have it myself, but I do see I can't hide my I do enjoy some of the ones that she's shown me. So
Yeah. And so that then has like the 15-second or 1 minute reaction clip, and they do it side by side split screen. But you're talking about someone essentially doing like a movie watch along, filming their face. But then are they like wearing, because for legal reasons, they can't play the track of the movie, right?
So the way it works, at least the way I'm ingesting most of them currently, is through YouTube. But a lot of these folks have adjoining Patreons, so that if you have a copy of the movie, you can sync it up.
Okay.
And you're correct, because of legal stuff, they can only have so many portions of the movie playing in like their YouTube videos. Obviously, they're pretty picky and choosy, and like if they get some big reaction out of themselves, they'll try and put up as 10, 15 seconds of that footage. But yeah, essentially the only way you could kind of have both experiences is renting or owning the movie and syncing it up with them. And that's most of the time. I don't think I've run into anyone so far that I've been paying for, as far as that, well, outside of like ad revenue.
Yeah.
There are ways to watch almost all of these folks with like full length commentaries. You can watch them for an hour and a half every couple times a week watching movies. So
Okay.
yeah.
Because I once Lauren Lapkus on Newcomers.
Yes, I love that.
She and her husband did a watch along track, and I think on her Patreon she does watch along tracks to one of the Star Wars movies. And I was like, oh, this will be fun to listen to. And I just put it on like it was a podcast, and I was like, oh, you can't listen to a watch along unless you actually watch the movie.
Now, I could probably just know beat for beat every Star Wars thing happening and get through it, but I understand what you're saying. And that is really funny too. Like, I think, yeah, I just don't think you could do that unless it was like a fair use movie or something weird, Mystery Science Theater 3000 or whatever kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. So I tried listening, and I was like, oh, sometimes they're not talking, and they're really just reacting to something that I maybe have only seen once. And so that was like my one experience of trying to do a watch along, which is I didn't follow the directions, and I didn't understand why the directions were important.
That's totally understandable. And it's not as though like these are completely they're less impenetrable, but like I always try and watch ones where I am familiar with the movie, where I'm like, oh, I'm excited to see this person see this movie that I've seen before or a million times even. And I'm like, oh, this is part of like, especially if they're like going through a series or something. And I'm like, man, I can't wait to see this person react to this thing. It's going to blow their mind. Yeah.
Let's time travel, possibly just to the beginning of the pandemic. Because you said this was a newer delight of yours.
Yes.
So how did what either YouTube personality, comedian, reaction video, what opened the door to this for you?
It's like, it's so hard to nail down, because even though you talk about finding these loves without an algorithm, I'm certain something that something I clicked on at some point pointed me that direction. I even try, it's getting to the point where I watch enough of these things that I'm wondering if I should invest in like a premium YouTube account and just kind of cut the commercials and things out. I have a friend that swears by it, and I'm like, I'm on it enough. But sometimes I'll even open stuff in a private window just to be like, I want to watch this video, but I don't want it to affect every video I watch after this. And it's hard to negotiate. I think kind of like you've mentioned, I probably was just seeing organically some reaction videos to like other things. I think just the way that TikTok and some YouTube stuff has progressed in the last couple of years has kind of lent itself to reactions. I was on another podcast and talking about like there's folks like similarly listening to music for the first time. And I think there was even something, I think they've even been like featured on like bigger shows where like that just made it to the top of like a YouTube homepage. And
Yeah.
I probably clicked it and then it just kind of opened up
Like the
rabbit
twins,
hole.
the twins that
Correct.
do.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember their names at the moment, but yeah, they've
There's
very
that Phil
famously.
Collins, right?
Yes, that's a great one. Phil Collins is great. I think there's like a Sinead O'Connor and there's all these other things where it's like, and it's just exciting to see like they, like I said, like they just seem like genuinely interested in hearing all these different suggestions and then approaching them honestly. And it's all content and it's all monetized, but I try not to be too cynical about that. And it's exciting to see someone experience something for the first time. Like you're like, man, I can't believe like not knowing that song, or like, man, they're gonna freak out when they hear this drum solo or whatever.
Right.
It's charming. So it is hard to pinpoint, but kind of back to what you said, I think that kind of started the ball rolling. And I don't even think I realized that was a genre of video initially, that there were people that that also had such a kind of gap in their kind of pop knowledge and kind of movies and something which I love so much. So realizing like, my God, like this is like everything I own on my shelf or everything I've ever seen. And it feels like they've never touched upon it, at least for some of them. It's pretty exciting.
It is. It's really, it is interesting to think about the things that, we each have our pop culture, like what's in our lane, what were we raised on, what do we choose to watch
blind
as adults?
spot or just things. There's things I know I haven't seen and I've been told to see and I just haven't gotten to them, and it's just it shocks people sometimes. I try not to be too finger waggy, but you can't believe you haven't seen that, because it's just like there's so much out there. There is so much to watch. Yeah, I didn't see, like 2001 Space Odyssey is something I didn't see until maybe a year before COVID. I saw it in a movie theater. There's a theater in Chicago has a 70 millimeter festival. Oh, wow.
And they paid to have, like the Music Box Theater paid to have it restored on 70 millimeter, I think.
That's incredible. Well, if you're going to see it for the first time, that's a way to see it. Probably looked better than it did back in the day.
I'm sure it did. It was a beautiful projection of just a very boring movie.
I don't think that's too much of a hot take.
Yeah. Right. So I've seen the twins and they're delightful because they are I think what you're getting at is, and it's also part of what is so fun about newcomers is people I think we're over the hump of like cynical detachment from things you like.
Yes.
And it's okay to have emotions again. It's okay to like not like being too cool for school is not fun anymore.
I think so. I think like the things that I at one time found cringy, or I'm like, I can't believe I liked that band. I'm like, no, embrace it. Like it takes you back to a place in your mind, and it's fun. It's fun to have that nostalgia and even acknowledge that you're like, oh man, I don't listen to it now, but God, dude, I love it then, or whatever. It's fine.
Yeah. So who are your go-to reactionaries?
So I have I have 3 or 4 that I like have in mind, like definitely came in mind. I'm subscribed to a couple more than that, but these ones in particular, one is Popcorn in Bed is the name of the channel. And she's really great. And the thing I like about her is that she sort of admitted that, I guess her friends and everyone have told her like she only liked, she said, chick flicks or happy ending kind of movies. She scares really easily. So it was something that she definitely wanted to branch out and try and watch all sort of different things that she's missed. So she's not the earliest videos that I've seen, but she's also pretty new. I think just in the last like 3 or 4 months is when she kind of started putting stuff out. And it was funny to me because she did some like early stuff, like she did Back to the Future, which she enjoyed. And she's doing like also like some TV watch throughs, which I'm not as keen on just because I'm not as familiar with like for like Band of Brothers and stuff, but stuff
Yeah.
like the Lord of the Rings she recently started. And the thing that I thought was particularly funny was like she watched Ghostbusters and was like genuinely scared by like some of the the ghosts and things like that. Like that's the level of like scared she was. So I was like,
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited for how early she is in her kind of career of doing this, and also
Yeah.
like what she might open herself up to watch moving forward, because pretty soon after that, I think she did Alien. And
Ooh, if
when I
she
saw
thought
that
Ghostbusters was
when I saw
scary.
that pop up, I was like, it did make me go like, I hope you're not going to have like genuine nightmares, because like
Right.
Alien is scary. Like I think it's
Alien is
scary.
legit scary. Yeah.
So kudos to her for trying, and like that particular like not even just that she hasn't seen them, but has like just avoided and always gone for certain kinds of movies, and is
Mm-hmm.
just opening herself up to whatever it seems like. It doesn't seem like she's going to lean into the scary maybe when October rolls around or something, but it's exciting that just in general, just movies she's just always like poo-pooed or not thought about, she might kind of go for. So that's one that I'm
That's
pretty
really
interested
fun.
in.
I thought that
Um,
I know he's not I don't even know if he's podcasting anymore since Gimlet sort of fell apart, but
hmm.
when PJ Voigt, is that PG? There was like a 4 episode podcast called Scaredy Cats, where it was two
Oh,
people who
did I listen to that?
uh
Maybe I did.
it was one of them liked scary movies and one of them didn't.
Hmm.
And so they were trying to get the guy who didn't like scary movies acclimated enough so that he could watch Get Out and Midsummer. So the first episode was with Jason Mantzoukas, and they came up with the Mantzoukas rules, which were that he had to watch them like at night with the lights off, with his
This
phone
sounds
off.
so familiar. If I didn't listen to this, then someone described it. This sounds really familiar.
It was a really very fun premise of like a podcast mini series.
Yeah.
Because I do not like scary movies. I thought Stranger Things was so scary that I spoiled it for myself. I would like read the Wikipedia
Wow.
entry and then watch an episode.
I get it. I mean, it's pretty spooky. I'm not
Yeah.
going to shame anyone for thinking something's too
Yeah.
scary.
I was alone in a hotel, and it was just kind of like I was like, all right, I just need to. I also grew up in Indiana in the 80s. So the
Wow.
first season of Stranger Things with like strip pits, kids drowning in strip pits, riding your bike for hours, your parents don't know where you are, kids playing D&D, things getting spooky. Like Stranger Things was made to terrify Aaliyah Jones.
I love it. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
So I can really appreciate popcorn in bed, like not being like being not watching scary movies and then getting really good content out of being an adult who doesn't like scary movies.
Yeah.
So I get it.
And then there is another woman I like, Ashley Burton. It's Ashleigh. And she's like younger. She's like in her like mid 20s, I think. So like she does like a Millennial Movie Monday, and her gap in knowledge is obviously like she is a bit younger and just genuinely hasn't experienced some of those movies.
Yeah.
And kind of tying into the Patreon, from what I gather, some of her videos that go up are actual Patreon suggestions. Like I think at a certain tier you can like suggest, and she will eventually watch and comment on a movie, which is definitely exciting for someone who wants to like. I'm glad that all these types of creators are making content and being able to get paid for it. So I feel like having someone that you enjoy as a personality on YouTube, supporting them, and then also getting that satisfaction of like, I suggested a cool movie, I hope they like it. And, or maybe, and even if they don't, maybe it's good content. It's cool. I like that synergy. She's really funny. She's like Southern. She's got like a big, huge laugh, and like records in a little closet. She's got a cute cat named Beans.
Aww.
And she has her stuff is all over across the board. She's I don't know how long she's been doing things, but she has a whole bunch of great commentaries of different movies. It looks like she's just like maybe under a year
maybe
or two.
Just a year, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of these, I think that's pretty common. It feels like a lot of these folks came up pretty quickly. And also just weird to me because it feels like I've been watching them forever. And then it's actually only been like maybe a couple months on some of
Yeah.
them. Um,
Oh, but
but
she's
she's
got,
really awesome.
I could see myself like really, she's got a bunch of like Mel Brooks movies,
Yeah.
Monty Python movies, John Hughes.
And she's kind of like the Blazing Saddles and the Mel Brooks especially. She's kind of like scandalized but can't help but laugh. And
Right.
it's funny to see someone who is definitely like a little bit young, a generation younger than me, and is seeing all these for the first time, including some classics and things. I guess I'm always interested to see like what they'll pick up on or how much context or I think like Star Wars is one of the things that across channels a lot of folks have ended up watching for the first time. And it's always interesting to see what they're bringing to the table as far as like, so many people know Luke, I am your father, but like, does that have the same oomph when you see it for the first time? Like if you're actually watching and like reacting, like it's interesting to see, or things like, The Godfather, just big movies that like, you wonder how much, if anything, they've heard about it, and see someone's genuine reaction for the first time is so wild.
And they're also, those are movies that, and this is how other than feeling bored at 2001 Space Odyssey, I felt like it unlocked so many pop culture, so many jokes for me.
That's true.
So
that's
like,
true.
Finally watching Star Wars. I mean, I've seen it, but like watching Star Wars, watching like It's a Wonderful Life or like classic movies, what it unlocks for you in pop culture references and jokes and punchlines.
Absolutely.
I think that's really interesting too. They do so this theater, Music Box, which this is not an advertisement for Music Box Theater, but they also do a like Is It Still Funny comedy series where they might show like a classic Mel Brooks in a theater on the big screen to an audience to see like, how does it make you feel in the 2000s to watch this movie?
I mean, as someone who went and watched Steve Martin's The Jerk in a theater, in the last 5-10 years, everyone was laughing. And I think like, even with the context of, because what was that made in like the early to mid 70s or whatever, it still kills. And I feel like people understand the time it came from, and some stuff is timeless in it too.
The Jerk is the one that starts with him finding out that he was adopted.
Yes, he was born a poor black child, and then finds out that he's not going to change color. There's plenty of stuff in there that that like I think people would tug their color at, but I think like they do a pretty good job. Like his family is also so great. Like it's a part I love about the movie is that like his family is so like funny and like competent, and he is like the dumbass that goes out on his own and has the adventure. I love it. I was trying to think of, you know what? We share, as you mentioned, a fandom in common. We're in the same server together, the Dose Cord, and someone actually in there suggested someone recently that I really like named, it's Brandon Likes Movies is the feed. And I've just been like, so he puts out a lot of content. He's watching like a couple different shows simultaneously and putting out commentary for those. I'm less about the shows. I'm definitely more like the movie stuff so far of across the board for channels. But he's watched a lot of different movies and he's liked some, like a lot of the Tarantinos, and he's liked some kind of like action films and things like that too. But he is really like wholesome and doesn't like swear really. And and I don't know if it's just like that was, as a kid, I was definitely, swearing wasn't a big thing. So I'm definitely still in that mode a lot of the times where I kind of like cover up a cuss, but he will just like, oh my freaking God, dude, I can't believe that happened. He got murdered. And I'm like, it's a very like tame reaction in the world of YouTube. And like to movies like Casino and things where all these just like explosions of violence occur. And he just goes like, my goodness, I can't believe it. Is so, it's so funny to me. And I don't think it's a put on. I want to say he's fairly recent too. But that was a suggestion by I believe Stinky in the Discord, and
Yeah.
I've just become enchanted with him. He's so he's one other one where I'm excited when anything pops up in the feed because I just want to see his wholesome reaction to it.
Oh my gosh, he really, I'm just like scrolling through his now.
Yeah,
There is a lot.
there's
Wow.
a
Okay,
lot.
so
And I
he does
think
a
like
combination of like movies and then
yeah, it looks like he's
TV
got a couple
shows.
series concurrently, and that's another thing where I think depending on how much patronage you get, he can probably
Mm-hmm.
afford to just sit down and do that much, reaction to things. It's impressive.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's someone also like started a year ago.
Yeah, I'm not sure if anyone I've been watching has been like I wonder if any of like or maybe that's just not worth the amount of time it takes to produce a video, but like I wonder if any giant YouTube celebrities and people uh have dipped into that, honestly.
Right.
Um the other one that is I want to say is also pretty recent. The last one I was going to mention was in the last 6 months. Her name is Alanda Parker, Alanda, and she has been doing. She does like I think she did The Expanse and then like is doing the one of the Walking Dead series,
Mm-hmm.
but she's only watched like a couple kind of like action movies and things so far. She watched The Thing, which I mentioned earlier, and that's a favorite of mine. And she loved seeing the Terminator movies for the first time, and I think she just did RoboCop and Tremors pretty recently,
Yeah.
and just very like her. The other thing too is it's like her room's really cute. She's got like cool like earrings and like
Mm-hmm.
outfits. She's like has her cup of tea and is just like so enjoying the movie and I just really like enjoy her actual reactions to everything too. And I've seen a couple in my just because of the algorithm that are like maybe a bigger group of people and it feels more of like an established kind of like show and it
Right.
feels like I don't know it's and no shade on some of that but it just doesn't like have the same like intimacy really and there's just something nice about like a solo person kind of reacting maybe there's some production on their end at some point but like I don't know it just especially and maybe like maybe what I'm experiencing too is like it just feels so like touched by like kind of like the cynicism of YouTube because they're all still early kind of
Mm-hmm.
flourishing channels but like I that's maybe what like captivates me so much and we talked about this before we started but like I truly love being able to watch a great movie with a friend and bonus points if they've never seen it before and
Yeah.
it's everything I can do to keep myself from turning and looking at their reaction when it's happening because it's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's movies I wish I could forget if only to experience them for the first time again.
Yeah.
So something about seeing someone else do that is it's just about the next best thing. And it's just been a comfort even in the last few months to have kind of that little bit of a connection sort of.
Yeah. So I'm curious when you go to watch a full length reaction video, not just like one that's clips. Do you like literally how do you set up the room? Movie on the TV and then a laptop and you're like watching them watching it? Are you doing like a side split screen? Like
If I
how
was
do
doing
you take it in?
I've only done like a few and the way I would normally do it is either put it up on the TV if I own like the disc or like maybe rent it on my computer, especially if I was like doing it on the day and then just like watch the reaction like through my phone or like in another window.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the few times I've done it, it's definitely been a movie where I either knew it so well that if it wouldn't have been a disaster if I didn't have it running,
Okay.
or it's something where I know it so well that like I've been able to like have it on like you almost like you mentioned like have it on like a podcast and like
Mm-hmm.
be able to turn or like if I can tell like a scene's coming up or if there's like a big reaction because like you said I think part of those are part of the nice of the thing of the YouTube videos is sort of the distillation I think
Yeah.
I don't crave yet the full length ones but I think there's probably an inevitable point where I want to support and I'm glad I can kind of like help independent
Mm-hmm.
creators like on a small scale and I think it would be exciting. Maybe I'll make the jump at some point soon. Maybe I'll invest even for a short while in one of these Patreons and see if I can like suggest a fun movie or something.
Yeah.
Because I don't do the full lengths as much, but I try and do it kind of like window in window and
Okay.
take it all in. Like I would, and especially like I think I mentioned like Star Wars, I could probably listen to any full length commentary and then not need
And
it
just
running.
play it in your forehead, like play it in your
Probably.
head.
And
Yeah.
but then there's things like if someone did like a Mad Max Fury Road, that's such like a fun visual film that I would need it on, and I would want to have the ideal setup is like my TV going and like another screen going with them so that I could kind of have the full thing.
That's
Yeah.
It's so cool. Yeah, because I could see it. It's almost like you're setting yourself up for listening to the director's track on like a on like DVD with like bonus content, right?
Yeah, those are great too. And that's something where a movie I love enough, I eventually get there anyway. We're like, I should just be I should be putting the movie on and just like having a new angle, like listening to with the commentary, because it's insightful and fun. And I don't even think some of that stuff makes it to IMDb sometimes. I don't think people always listen and then transcribe it. So it feels like maybe that's just like the next evolution anyway, is that would be great. I want like the directors and actors to have like YouTube channels and do the reactions to their own movies too. That would be fun.
That would be super fun. I'm a little bit surprised there haven't. I mean, they're just today on like every podcast I got an ad for a new podcast that's two guys that were in Lord of the Rings together.
Yeah.
Like a Friendship Onion.
The Friendship Onion, yes. I'm forgetting their names, Billy Boyd or Dominic Monaghan. Yes.
Yeah. And it seems like if any podcast were ripe for actors doing that, having not listened to an episode and not knowing them at all, I'm going to put it on them. I'm going to add it to their to-do list.
Oh, for sure. And I think I'm trying to remember, there's multiple commentaries on the Lord of the Rings DVDs. And I think one is Peter Jackson and some of the other production staff. And I want to say, I think there's like two separate actor ones just because there's so many people
right
are trying to comment. But I'm pretty sure all the Hobbits are at least on one. And Billy Boyd and Monahan are so funny. And it sounds like had such a great time and are just, they're such nerds too, and making the kind of jokes that everyone is probably making. The big nerds are making watching it anyway. It's really endearing. I'm excited. That's funny that you mentioned that they did just start that pod. I hope, because I think they're having friends and actors from the movies on there, and I hope they do something like a watch along. That would be great.
Yeah, because I think it's interesting to me to all the different ways that creators have tried to make use of the pandemic, make use of the time.
Yes.
Like, how do you, and because I don't know, my closest friends are in my ears, right? Like, I live alone. I listen to a lot of podcasts. And so I've been to like every How Did This Get Made live show, all of Nicole Byer's live shows, Doughboys live, the Doathon. And that's how like the podcasts and comedians, and I've been to some Zoom comedy shows like Jackie Cation and Laurie Kilmartin. So it's interesting to me that there's this whole other, well, I'm sure there are so many other ways that I think it's interesting that reaction videos are something that has come up and come out of COVID.
Yeah.
As like a lane that more people got into it when they're like, well, I'm home alone. What am I going to do?
Yeah, I think that was something even early on. Like, it seems like culturally we were all watching the same shows, and like that's the reason the Tiger Kings of the world and stuff like that became so big, because it felt like there was no excuse for everyone not to be seeing this. We're all indoors anyway.
Right.
So it just feels like a natural evolution that like folks realize, like, I'm sitting around catching up on all this media anyways, and it sounds like there's a way to monetize and create a community around it. And we've established that there's these parasocial relationships that have good and ill, but ultimately they generate that community, they generate a type of revenue, and there's also a way to approach it and be genuine, and that ultimately might help you in the long run. I'm sure everyone wants to be making money off the things that they're just watching and commenting on anyhow, but it feels like it feels like a fun transition of, like you said, that kind of medium anyway. We're already listening to these folks, and it's exciting that that they've that it's kind of evolved in this sense. And like you said, like I feel like podcast communities have been around for a decade or more now,
Yeah.
and finding these new venues of people that, they just have a Patreon community of folks, and that's the way they interact, and they have an actual say in the show is new. It's interesting. I like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I do have to say that like the dough scored is my, because I also started a fan group that is now very large and out of control for Armchair Expert,
Hmm.
which is Dak Shepard's.
Yes.
Uh, when it was like, when there were like 2 episodes out and I was trying to convince a friend to listen to it, and I was like, I'll make a Facebook group and we'll find some other people that listen. And now it's 7,000 people, but it is like, just, I can't keep up with that. That's not a podcast I've kept up with during quarantine. I don't know the inside jokes anymore. And I'm like, I'm going to have to see myself out of this podcast community.
I feel that way if I miss 1 or 2 episodes. I mean, there's other podcasts and things that I like, but
Yeah.
now that it's more of a part of my job, and I feel
Right.
like, it's also the pandemic. It's a weird thing where like there's things on my list to watch and see, and I will whittle my time away on like multiple YouTube videos instead, or I re-listen to an episode of a podcast that I know I love
Yeah.
instead of listening to the brand new episode of the thing and interacting. I also think it's like tough to keep up with everything. Like I really love podcast The Ride is another podcast I
Mm-hmm.
really enjoy, and I do listen to it, but I it's not day one as much anymore just because of my schedule, and
Yeah.
it feels like I'm behind, and it feels like I'm not keeping up with the fandom, and it's a little bit of a bummer, but like it's just this juggling act. So I can see what you mean about things getting in control, because I also like it feels like you look at a page or a fan group sometimes and you're like, I have no context for any of this.
Yeah. Absolutely. But I really enjoy the dough scored community. So hi to anyone who's listening for the first time.
I Discord.
Do you feel community with any of the other fans of any of these reaction videos that you watch, or do you feel like you have a relationship, a parasocial relationship with the host?
Hmm.
But do you feel like they have that their fan communities that you have gotten involved in yet?
Not as much. I
Yeah.
definitely feel like more of an outside observer, and despite being a big fan, and despite, having my subscription set, so I'll see whenever a video drops and stuff. I'm also like, I have kind of like a love-hate relationship with social media, where like sometimes I'm fine commenting on stuff and
Right.
adding a like that I know that everyone can see, and other times I kind of like back off on things.
Mm-hmm.
And I also know that like it's like a tired trope, but like liking and subscribing and doing all that stuff does help. So I feel
Right.
bad about it sometimes, but it's just like almost like a need to be able to be disconnected, and like ultimately a watch helps someone too. So it's not as though it's not going towards something. The Doughboys community has been kind of my biggest fan community interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I feel like still a camaraderie with um some Facebook fan groups. It's one of the only things I'm on Facebook for is
Yeah.
for Doughboys and Podcast to Ride as well. And they are really nice and genuine people too. But yeah, it's interesting that I still kind of feel like for folks that I like so much and kind of and view, I don't interact as much. And like I said, maybe I'll take the leap. Maybe I should throw some dollars even for a little bit at someone and kind of see kind of how that feels, or dip a toe into
Yeah.
a community like that.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly not required.
Yeah.
And I also think anything that I've really leaned into, for me, it's podcasts that make it feel like I never would have predicted that I would be a fan of High and Mighty. Like, it doesn't make sense if you know me offline. And even when my neighbor came with, like, because the Doughboys live show was on my birthday, and so my neighbor came and watched it, and he was like, I feel like I don't know who you are anymore. Um, But I like podcasts that feel like company. They feel like
Yeah.
there's just like some people thrown down in the living room. And and to me, when I look at these reaction videos or the ones that I've watched, they do give you that sense of something to react off of in a way that's so different than reacting to a TV show. Like you are seeing their true surprise, scared, fun,
Mhm.
laughing. There's something very real in the reaction.
Yeah, I wish I could like distill the feeling, especially when it's something that I already know and love. Like I said, if it's like a movie or something that I'm excited for them to experience, I'm excited before I watch it. I'm just like,
Yeah.
that's so exciting and it's so fun to me. And similarly, like wow, like you said, with these like live shows and things like that, it's you can't deny the way it seems like being able to see them talk, and it's just that screen away from being in the audience.
Mm-hmm.
I've always had a really great time at the few live, podcast tapings and shows that I've always been to also. And I think you do get people that you can tell that they're sort of pent up and they're the ones that are maybe saying stuff
Yeah.
during the show and things like that. And I think
Right.
we've all had those moments or maybe not, but it's it's interesting because you're getting to see those people you've had in your ears or only experienced through a screen for so long, and then you also get to see other people reacting to that and the different ways they kind of handle that situation. So
Yeah. Yeah. I like to imagine um I I was at the Why Won't You Date Me in Chicago when Nicole
wow.
broke the toilet.
No, I think Gabrus broke it and also Nick broke it, and I think everyone broke it and not
Yes.
her. I think everyone did
Yes.
in solidarity.
Yes. Yeah, each of the guys as they came on stage took
They all
responsibility.
Spartacused for her. It was
Yeah,
very sweet.
it was. But that was like that is an energy of a room that if I could just like bottle it up,
Yes.
like that was such a fun night. Um and uh and when I watch a live stream, when I watch the live shows, I'm like I have the memory, like I know what it feels like to be in an auditorium with these guys and their fans and that energy. And so it's like you're dehydrating it
Ooh, that's a
around,
good
you know?
that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, it's not the quite the same visceral high, but it's
Right.
you are tapping into something still. There's
Yeah.
still there's still that residual, and it's often enough for sure.
Yeah. So, Robert, if you were going to make a reaction channel, I'm not putting this on your to-do list. What are do you think you would do things you've seen before? Like, would you do all of Star Trek? Nope. Star Wars with a Robert Persinger commentary on like you're reacting with like all the things you love about it? Or would you go and find things that are your blind spots and do true first time reactions?
That is, I admit that like even some of the folks that I like, I haven't gone to some of the videos. There are occasionally videos where they're like, I have seen this before, and it's like a favorite, and that's why I'm doing reaction. And I've watched some of them, but I'm less interested just because I feel like I feel like maybe I go to those videos after I've established more of like how I feel about them, and then I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, I like them now. I want to see how they react to like their fave video or
right.
the one that they've seen before. And I have thought about if I were to ever do anything like that, which I'm not sure I would, how I would, what I would do. The problem is, I'm sure I have a lot of blind spots, but I'm just like, I'm trying to think what would be like engaging. And I also don't know if I would do it with the intent of like getting a Patreon and doing a bunch of stuff. I would probably just do it for fun and a
Right.
good excuse to like watch movies and things that I haven't experienced yet. I think it would, I mean, I haven't seen everything, but I do love movies. So I wonder, I guess if you open it up to a community too, then you really get people saying like, hey, have you seen this? And you realize like, oh no, I haven't. Yeah, I guess I'll watch that. Um, I think I would love to watch movies that I'm familiar with. I would love to watch The Thing and Star Wars and
Mm-hmm.
some different action movies and different things that I'm most love. Um, maybe like to get started. But yeah, maybe I think I would, just based on what I like and knowing that other people like that so much. I think it would be fun to open it up and really see what people could suggest that I haven't seen, and kind
Yeah.
of allow myself to experience that, because it's seeing them experience it too. I think the benefit is like, I know these movies are good. So maybe I should also seek out like people reacting to, I don't want to spoil it for myself, but like people reacting to movies that I'm not as familiar with is
Mm-hmm.
interesting too, because that's part of such a big part of the enjoyment. I would hope I could get tap into something and find some new things through it. I think that would be exciting to try
Yeah.
out.
Because I think it is hard to figure out like what is like accessible. And hi Spidey. What? Come here. Like what is accessible enough to be able to watch it and record a reaction to it,
Yeah.
and also to have not seen it. There's not going to be a reaction video to the Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say Popcorn in Bed might have done one.
How did she not
I
have? She just did not have a TV growing up.
And I think maybe, I mean, she says like she's made fun of because like she just avoids like huge giant classic movies, but she watched it, and yeah, that's what I mean. Like I also think that like there are obviously these cultural touchstones, but I bet there's like big huge movies that I just, Oscar contenders and things that I've just
Yeah.
like have slipped through the cracks, and I'm sure they're great, and I'm sure like I would have a big reaction, or probably really enjoy, and I just need to like commit to do. Another
Right.
thing that's like maybe a symptom of the quarantine also is like, I really need to be in like the right mood for some movies, especially like dramas and ones that I know are going to
Mm-hmm.
be a little sadder. And I do love those movies. And I'm a pretty emotional person. And I know like how much like little things can kind of set me off in
Yeah.
movies in a good way. I don't mind doing that, but I almost mentally need to be in like the right place for some films. And I
Right.
feel like that's sort of maybe that's kind of like a big roadblock, is like some of these dramas and things where I'm like, I need to open myself up and be like, feel this movie, watch
Right.
it and
Right.
experience it, even though there's going to be ups and downs, kind of a thing.
Yeah. Well, and also, like I don't think everything you enjoy has to turn into a side hustle. So
Exactly.
you don't have to. Just because I enjoy cupcakes means like I made cupcakes once and I was like, no, I will return to the bakery. Like some things I don't have to make myself.
Absolutely.
But I do think I really didn't understand the the depth that these channels went to.
Hmm.
That is totally news to me, and that they're sometimes full length reactions. I see a lot of them are half an hour or so, like they're down to the best moments, it
The
seems.
highlights and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's wild to me. I'm happy I've like stumbled into it, and I'm excited for who else I might kind of run into in the meantime. But I hope, it's not something fleeting, like as things kind of hopefully get better and we get out more. I hope I'm still experiencing them, but I don't know how much my own media consumption is going to change once we can kind of live outside of it, more. It's been a weird kind of up and down for me in quarantine, like having a lot of time sometimes and not watching stuff, or like I said, kind of watching different kinds of media.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, kind of hoping that some of these folks stick around. It's everything is so kind of, a lot of them are so new, so I have no idea. It's all such a uncharted kind of sphere.
Yeah. No, I hear you on that. When the quarantine started, I was like, I can't watch any new to me. I just need comfort food.
Yeah.
So it was Gilmore Girls. I started rewatching Cheers.
Oh, cool.
It was like sitcoms that I had watched as a kid or as a teen. And then as the year went on, I watched more, but I spent a lot of time listening to podcasts, listening to back catalogs of podcasts. I started a podcast. I learned how to edit audio.
Great.
So I'm hopeful that I will keep doing this as the world reopens, because I've really enjoyed it. And I don't want to be COVID podcast cliche.
Some of us have to be. It's just gonna be the case. But no,
Yeah.
I that's exciting that it's something that was a byproduct of it, and I hope it is something that continues to happen too, for sure.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what were some of the other possible favorite things as you were in the weeks in between the invitation and you coming on my podcast? And by weeks, I mean literal minutes.
I mean, there's all sorts of things that I've kind of been enjoying in quarantine, and um, I don't know if it's tacky to say that I have been liking making cocktails and drinks and stuff like that.
It
That's
is
sort
not
of become
tacky.
a passion of mine. I mean, I like drinking them too, so that's the only problematic part. But I genuinely do love, and that's something that I appreciate. Again, that's something I loved before we were all stuck inside, and will super love when I go back out, is
Mm-hmm.
someone skillfully making me a nice drink.
Yeah.
It's such a pleasure, um, especially if you can see it. And now, having made my own drinks at home and knowing how many ingredients go into it, and how much goes into not just making it taste good, but the presentation is such a nice part of it too. So uh, that's one that I have been passionate about. I've also been listening to the Sloppy Boys podcast, and they cover cocktails every week. So that has been, I want to say, with the exception of a couple, I've made most of the drinks that they've reviewed. And it's been interesting to kind of go through these, sometimes a lot of like classic cocktails, where
Right.
now I have a bottle of something that I don't know what I'm gonna do
What
with
else
it,
you're
or
gonna
if
do
it's
with it?
if I'm ever gonna, I hope I like it enough to make something more than once, kind of a thing.
Right. You're gonna end up
And
with like Fernet and Campari. You're gonna end up with like big bottles of like bitter, like
I'm gonna have to invent some new cocktails that are
yeah.
mostly these spirits and things. Um, the other one that's also kind of just in the last couple years is theme parks for me. Um,
Okay.
and that's something that I wasn't super into as a kid. I was and kind of still am a scaredy cat. I don't. I think I've only been on one roller coaster that went upside down.
Yeah.
I'm not a big heights guy, but the actual
Does Seattle have a Six Flags or a
well, it has so it's got the Wild Waves Enchanted Village, which
okay.
is the water park attached to like a few little rides and stuff. I don't even know what the theme park status of the non-water park is at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then back in the day, at the base of the Space Needle, there was kind of carnival tents and things, like, like squirt the
Yeah.
clown with the water kind of things, and knock over the pin sort of stuff. And they had a little, it was almost like a permanent installation of carnival rides. Like they had a
Oh.
Gravitron, the
Oh,
really crazy
I
one where you
love
pressed
Gravitron.
against the thing. And then
Is
they
that
had one
still
that
legal? That can't be legal anymore.
probably, well, I don't know. I don't know. I wonder if
I
those
mean, the
things still
physics
pull
is
up
still
outside of.
good, but
Oh
like
yeah,
you literally just leaned against a
you
giant
were kind of
piece
like,
of metal.
and just trying to move your arm across your body while it was pushing you. It was wild. There was one, I don't remember what it was called, but it was like a musical kind of ride where it was kind of on a track that went up and down, and
Uh-huh.
it went sort of behind a big circular platform. And the kind of theme was just that they would play kind of rock hits, and then
Yeah.
for one portion of the ride, like a bonnet would kind of go over all the cars and then kind of unfurl again. And it was pretty short. I think it only lasted a part of a song, and then you
Right.
got off. They had a big log flume out at Seattle Center
Okay.
out underneath, and that was always fun, especially on a hot day. You would get kind of wet. And this was all sort of torn down and made way for the Museum of Pop Culture in Seattle
Okay.
here. So I miss it, but I didn't have like, I went to like Disneyland once when I was really young, and it was
Mm-hmm.
kind of such an ethereal kind of memory. So just in the last 2 or 3 years, I've gone with my wife and just to Disneyland, and I've enjoyed it so much. Love the theming, love that it feels transportive to me. Like you can look at
Yeah.
the horizon, and depending on where you're standing, you're just in this magical place. You're not in Anaheim. So I really do love that about it. And there's all sorts of things to say about Disney. And I think shamefully, you know, I've had the some of the best customer interactions, and the cast members there are so amazing, and they
Yeah.
100% should be treated so much better. It's insane that there's that level of, it goes to show that there's that level of fandom and dedication in the people that want to work there. And I hope that, especially as things kind of transition, that they're cared for, because I think
Yeah.
that's such a big part of going and interacting with folks that care about their job. And also, like, I don't care if I don't mind if anyone's not having a good day and isn't like 100% on.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want them to get in trouble or anything by any means, but I just mean, like, it is fun to see someone that like seems to love what they're doing. And I
Yeah.
just hope that there's that reciprocation on the end of their employers too. So that's another part I like about the theming of it, is that like the people there actually like seem like they want to be there, and
Yeah.
are putting on a show for you. They're in sometimes in character. It's incredible.
One of my early episodes is an interview with a friend that all about the Disney vacation. From cruises to staying on site. She was a Florida Disney World person.
Oh wow, I would love to go someday.
Yeah, I've been to Disney World twice. So I did like a high school band trip, which was like standard Indiana high school stuff. You know, overnight, go on a bus to Orlando, do a day at Cape Canaveral, march in the parade at Disney, go to Universal Studios. So that was like 16 years old, you know, super fun. And then once as a grown up, had a conference in Orlando that was on property.
Wow.
And
with Mickey, or
Mickey
yeah,
popped in, Mickey and Minnie
conference?
popped in for a photo shoot. It was a blogging conference, Blog Orlando. But they gave us all park hopper passes for the next
Wow.
day. So me and a guy, like another vendor, we were like, we're going to go to every Disney property today and go on one ride.
Oh my
each.
gosh.
And we had a rental car, 2 park hoppers, and we just went like, okay, like we did the one inside or I guess it's Epcot is inside the golf ball. We did like a safari ride in Animal Kingdom. We ran in and out of every park and did one ride in each park, and it was so much fun.
That's so exciting. I can't imagine. I'm like overwhelmed. The idea of going to World, especially because it seems like you need days to try and get to everything. And I know people say like, well, you can hit this thing up or the line won't be so bad at some point, but I would be stressed about stuff I was missing out on, because it just seems like there's so much fun stuff to do.
There's so much, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you just have to like let yourself take the grown-up vacation and like instead of trying to make it work in 2 days, like take a week, do all of it.
I know.
That's save up
dream.
for 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm willing to, that's maybe the other shameful thing of like, I want to experience these parks, and even now like these international parks where I'm like, man, I would love one day to be able to go to, like, there's supposed to be an incredible Tokyo Disneyland, but I'm like,
right.
I feel like I would almost feel, I shouldn't feel that way, but like I would almost feel like ashamed if I'm like, I'm putting aside a couple days when I go to Japan for the first time to go to this Disneyland. And it's like, I shouldn't be like, it's supposed to be great and exciting, but I also want to like be in the middle of Tokyo and experience all these different like kind of cultural things too. So it's both, but the fandom is strong. And like I said, the theming is so exciting. I've heard only great things. So I can't guarantee if I do go abroad anytime in the future that I won't try to hit up one of these international parks while I'm on my trip anyway. So
yeah, because isn't there still a Paris Disney?
Yeah, there's still like a Paris Disneyland.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's lackluster, but like, but France doesn't really have anything anyway, right? So
no.
you go to Disneyland.
They've got bread and cheese. I'm sure they sell bread and cheese in Paris Disney.
I want to say initially they did have wine when they first opened, and that was a big mistake. That did not help Paris Disneyland. It's true. They were like, you need to make an exception. There needs to be this on site.
Yeah. Oh boy. Well, Robert, this has been a blast.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Is there anything about reaction videos that if we hang up and you're like, I can't believe I didn't tell her this thing, do you have a final
Um,
thought or word on them?
I would just encourage folks. I mean, I don't know if you'll like link to any of them,
I
but
will
I would
link
just,
to all of them, yes.
yeah, I would just encourage folks to give it a try. Try to, see someone experiencing something new, their perspective for the first time. I feel like you might even be able to find some movies in common across these channels. I think, and the way the algorithms do work, I think some folks are like, wow, it seems like everyone is watching, this Tarantino film this week, or oh, everyone's watching. I think especially like around Halloween, you can almost guarantee there'll be like some crossover. But
Yeah.
I would try and check at least one of them out. I know that sometimes the amount of media we're trying to consume is smaller and smaller, and 25 minutes, a half hour is an ask for some
Mm-hmm.
folks, but you don't have to watch the whole thing either. And especially if it's something that all the big beats to, check out and see. Like, I would say Popcorn in Bed, her reaction to some of the Ghostbuster stuff was like so funny because she was truly scared by some like mild, in my opinion, stuff. But
Yeah.
it's so wholesome and it feels genuine, and at least get in on the ground floor before these people sell out and they're just big
Yeah.
YouTube at that point. It feels so grounded right now. So I would really just say to give them a shot.
Fantastic. And I will link to everyone
That's awesome.
in the show notes so people will be able to look at that. And I'll grab the twins. And I will not link to any of the early YouTube reaction videos that I referenced earlier.
If they're even still allowed on YouTube, we might have caught it in that special time, and that's it.
Yeah. Robert, where can people find you online? What would you like to promote?
Let's see. I'm at I like I said, different kind of social media. I'm sort of not on there as myself all the time, but I'm king_slop on Twitter. And check out Doughboys. I associate produce on that. I'm trying to do fun little segments when I can, and pick out fun drops and feedbacks for the shows. So I like being behind the scenes, but I like that my fingerprints are on there somewhere. And shout out to everyone else does so much more than me, Emma and Nick and Mitch and Susser and everyone on that show. And then check out my podcast, Gentlemen Overlords. That's me and my buddy Andrew and Max, and we talk about movies and TV. Usually focus on one movie every 2 weeks that we review together. But we've been podcasting for a long time and gone through different sort of iterations, and it's just such a nice excuse to get together with them and talk about stuff. So yeah, give it a listen.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, and I hope I'm really excited that you're 2 weeks. You're almost fully vaccinated.
Can't wait.
Enjoy a fancy cocktail on a patio safely somewhere. I did buy the Empress Gin because of you.
What? That's awesome.
I saw you posting about it in the Discord, and I was like, I have to have that purple gin.
See, now that's what I need to monetize. I need to be doing my Empress Gin reactions and get a little scratch, because I've been pushing this stuff for sure.
No, you should. You should have it should be like the Drop King or the Slop King on Drizzly. Ooh. There should be like Drizzly reaction videos where you send out cocktails to people.
And watch the color change on the... Yeah.
Because what I do is there's a Thai restaurant we order from that has a pear, it's like a pear lemonade. Maybe it's a pear thyme lemonade. And I get that delivered, and then I dump out half of it into a pint glass, and then I add the Empress Gin to it.
Oh my gosh.
So it's it's a fancy lemonade coming from a Thai restaurant that then I add the purple gin to.
That sounds heavenly. Oh my gosh.
It is really nice. Wow. Because I am unwilling to buy all the odds and ends to make nice cocktails for myself. I am so excited. I'm doing a terrible job wrapping up this podcast, but I just drink like bourbon on the rocks or a gin and tonic.
Simple is nice.
Simple. And I cannot wait to go and have like beautiful, complicated
It has to be
cocktails.
shaken. There has to be an herb
Yes.
sitting on the side somewhere.
I mean, I want them to like light a cigarette and blow smoke on it. Like, give me the tobacco infused ice. I cannot wait. So, but until then, I will see you on the Discord and on, when you do chime in on your segments, I'll hear you in those as well.
Oh, thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Finding Favorites with Leah Jones. Please make sure to subscribe and drop us a 5-star review on iTunes. Now, go out and enjoy your favorite things.